Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this chaotic, incredibly high-stakes transmigration story. We're looking at a world where our protagonist, Feng Shu, wakes up in a terrifying new reality. This is a gripping survival narrative that takes the classic hero's journey and just completely flips it upside down. We're talking about a world where monsters live right next to us, disguised in plain sight, and honestly, the only way to survive is to completely abandon your own humanity. So put yourself in his shoes for a second. What would you do if your beautiful new wife was actually a bloodthirsty monster and simply acknowledging her true form meant instant death? It's a brilliant hook. Imagine waking up in a strange room, words written in blood on the ceiling, and you quickly realize you've taken over someone else's life. A beautiful woman calls you her husband, says breakfast is ready, but yeah, there's a huge catch. She has a monstrous mouth, an impossibly long tongue, and if she figures out that you can see her true form, she eats you alive. Feng Shu learns very quickly that his reality operates exactly like a video game save point. Every single time he gets devoured, he just resets right back to the moment he woke up. And this leads to a brutal, completely inverted hero's journey. With every grisly death, his emotional fluctuations are literally stripped away until only a cold, calculating survivor remains. Look at how this progresses. By death 6, he's still jumping at her horrific jump scares. By death 13, he tries a totally new tactic, pretending to be desperately in love with her just to buy some time, but she eats him anyway. Finally, by the 18th death, something inside him just snaps. The terror is gone. The panic, gone. His empathy is totally erased, replaced by this pure, sociopathic drive to live. Which brings us to a massively defining moment. He thinks, no one kills me 18 times and gets away with it. I will end all the weirdos in this place without remorse. That inner thought is absolutely crucial. It marks the exact turning point where the terrified victim officially becomes a ruthless anti-hero out for blood. He realizes he's surrounded by invisible supernatural entities that normal people can't even see, but because of his unique transmigration, he can. So, armed with absolute emotional detachment, he finally walks out of his apartment, ready to completely turn the tables on this cursed world. Part 1. Surviving the Ghost Hospital. Let's move right into his first real test outside the apartment, where his old company office overlaps with a literal nightmare. The contrast between him and his friend here is just striking. While his buddy Zhao Hao is screaming as their coworkers disappear into the dark, having completely normal, terrified human reactions, Feng Shu is just sociopathically calm. He's actually seeking out contact with the ghosts. He knows that to survive out here, you have to awaken spiritual energy. And the only way to do that is to experience intense fear while physically touching a ghost. And the threat they're facing is no joke. As this gruesome ghost doctor drops right down from the ceiling, totally ignoring physics, Feng Shu instantly analyzes her combat parameters. It's like he's downloading boss stats. She attacks one person at a time, rests for precisely 2 to 3 minutes to consume them, and has skin as hard as steel. She's completely invulnerable to normal attacks. Oh, and she traps them on endless staircases, creating these infinite spatial loops so they can never actually reach the exit. This next move shows you exactly how far gone our guy is. Having lost all his empathy, he literally trips his bosses, the guys who are trying to push everyone else to the back to save themselves, so the ghost eats them first. He uses them as living human shields, and while the ghost is distracted consuming them, Feng Shu deliberately stays behind. He's literally patting the ghost's cold, steel-like legs just to absorb its cursed energy. And incredibly, it actually works. By repeatedly touching the ghost's cold body, he awakens a mere 1% of his spiritual capacity. It's a power fueled purely by the pain and trauma he endured from those 18 deaths. Now, 1% might sound tiny, but it sharpens his senses and lets him wield supernatural weapons. Like this cursed scalpel he loots directly from the ghost doctor after outsmarting her attack patterns through trial and error. And when I say trial and error, I mean he literally gets decapitated and uses his time loop ability to dodge perfectly on the next run. But the physical hospital isn't the only trap here. He realizes that escaping requires breaking a dream manipulation entity that tricks you into thinking you've reached a safe exit. The only way out of this fabricated dream, you have to force a massive spike in extreme emotions to shock your mind awake. So how does his terrified buddy Zhao Hao pull this off? Well, hilariously enough, he visualizes his favorite adult videos, imagining this incredibly strict teacher punishing him. That bizarre, intense mix of romantic and terrifying emotions literally shocks his mind awake, allowing both of them to shatter the nightmare and break back into the real world. Part 2. The S-Rank Prophet. Now we're transitioning into my absolute favorite part of the story, how Feng Shu completely manipulates the government's Supernatural Investigation Bureau. So he knows the government is going to be rounding up survivors, right? He needs a solid cover story. He leverages his trial and error deaths to flawlessly gather up all their secrets. I mean, he predicts the exact winning lottery numbers on live TV right before they're drawn. Then he calls in a perfectly timed warning that saves the life of the city's top investigator, Captain Baiki. By doing this, he successfully convinces the entire bureau that he possesses a legendary S-rank ability to see the future. The bureau is absolutely stunned. They genuinely believe they've just recruited a literal prophet. Feng Shu immediately scans the key figures in the room and uses this fake status to extort 200 spiritual coins from Captain Young Ming. How? By casually threatening to reveal Yang's dirty little secret of poisoning his rival by qi with a laxative during a big promotion test. It's genius. Feng Shu secures an elite salary, massive resources, and top-tier clearance, literally without breaking a single sweat. Part 3. Absorbing the blood pupil. But of course, the calm doesn't last long because we are diving straight into a gruesome encounter in a hidden torture chamber. The underworld doesn't really care about his fancy new government title. So this total lunatic named Lin Zhang makes a massive, fatal mistake. Seeking revenge because Feng Shu killed his cousin, he knocks our protagonist out and drags him off to an underground warehouse. He chains him to a rusty torture machine, completely unaware that he has just kidnapped the absolute most dangerous man in the city. Feng Shu actually uses his time loop ability to just sit there. He lets Lin Zhang kill him once, just so he can wake up back in his apartment, completely prepared. When Lin Zhang knocks on the door in the very next loop, Feng Shu instantly throws a cursed scalpel straight through the wood, totally neutralizing him. The pacing from here is just breathless. Feng Shu drags Lin Zhang to his own warehouse and ties him up to his own machine. Talk about reversing the roles. He uses his cursed scalpel to inflict the 1,000 cuts, methodically and completely breaking his torturer's mind to extract information about this underground syndicate called the Light Club. The sheer agony is so intense that Lin Zhang's mind totally shatters, causing his spiritual energy to violently mutate. And this is where things get truly wild. When Lin Zhang mutates, this terrifying cursed entity called the blood pupil bursts right out of his body. It's basically a parasite that tries to burrow directly into Feng Shu's eye to consume his brain, threatening to lock him in an eternal loop of pain. But Feng Shu, he just laughs at it. His mind is already so full of the horrific, agonizing memories of 18 brutal deaths that he simply overpowers the entity with his sheer, insane tolerance for pain. He literally absorbs the blood pupil directly into his own eye. So now, he has the power to inflict massive mental pollution and violent hallucinations on anyone who makes direct eye contact with him. Armed with this crazy new power and all that wealth he extorted from Captain Yang, he heads over to the Black Rose Bar, which is this supernatural black market. He systematically starts putting hits out on the entire Light Club, starting with a guy named Liziel for a mere 200 spiritual coins. I mean, why do the dirty work yourself when you can just use the underworld's own assassins against them? He is playing 4D chess while everybody else is stuck playing checkers. Part 4, Trap at Blackwater River. All of this leads perfectly into our final cinematic cliffhanger during his very first official bureau mission. He gets deployed with investigator Ling Shi and his friend Xiao Hao to look into these mysterious drownings at Blackwater Village. As soon as they arrive, Feng Shu notices these incredibly eerie details that basically scream massive trap. For instance, the village elder is in his 80s, but he has this thick, jet black hair. And the biggest red flag for Feng Shu, a guy who can literally see spirits everywhere, there are 0 supernatural creatures visible in the area. Nothing. It is way too quiet, which means something massive, a true apex predator, has claimed this entire territory. After a really tense day of investigating without any direct attacks, the team decides they need to rest. They lock down their room for the night, thinking they've totally secured the perimeter and that they'll just investigate the river in the morning. So, the big question, are they finally safe? Nope, absolutely not. Feng Shu wakes up suddenly feeling this intense, biting cold. He clicks on his phone's flashlight, shattering the pitch darkness, only to realize the supernatural entity bypassed all their defenses entirely. It literally teleported their mattresses straight out of the cabin and directly into the center of a supernatural whirlpool in the middle of the Blackwater River. Pure panic ensues. Lingxi immediately points out, the river is the creature's zone of control, meaning her incredibly powerful fire manipulation abilities are rendered completely useless over the dark water. Feng Shui acts fast, managing to lasso their beds together with a rope, desperately trying to drag them toward the shore. But right when they think they've escaped the pull of the whirlpool, the water attacks. The creature lunges up from the depths, and the mattresses start to violently flip over into the pitch-black water. And that, my friends, is exactly where our story pauses for today. Can a prophet who relies on dying to learn the future survive a trap where there's absolutely no ground to stand on? Feng Shui might be a master of the time loop, but drowning in a supernatural river with a team that thinks he's some invincible S-rank master? That is a whole new level of danger. It really leaves you wondering just how dark things are going to get before he finds a way out. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. If you found this breakdown of Feng Shui's ruthless journey fascinating, make sure to keep your eyes open. You never know what supernatural entities might be lurking right there in your blind spots.